Museveni agamba yaleese dda mutabani we yagabana buli mirimu gyonna, yagaba visa, yagaba kaadi, yagaba abakozi. Museveni, Muhoozi has taken over the country illegally. Kati bali mu process esembayo nga wazaakola. So if you believe in freedom, then you must act in defense of it. Otherwise, we diminish and we lose our right to exist. I borrowed that quote from one of our good friends, the State of Israel. If you believe in freedom, then you must act in defense of it. Otherwise, you diminish and lose the right to exist. Muhoozi yawambye gavumenti oza katumena mukyala okutta kw'abantu. Tetukyayinza kutuula ng'abantu babamalawo. Ekifaananyi kino nkikubye mu kkala kijje ku mawulire, omuvubuka ono gwe basse bamusse lwakuba wa people power, lwakuba wagira pulezidenti waffe Kyagulanyi. Bintu bino tubivumirira. We condemn these acts of killing our people, false imprisonment, false accusations. Kati nga bamalema mabirizi salabireete bonna tubivumirira. Ngenda kukozesa ennimi bbiri leero nga nsomesa kubanga tutegeere ffenna ki ekyo tukola. Tetukyayinza kusirika when Muhoozi has taken over the country illegally. He made the military coup. Now he's using the military to assert his authority over the country. We cannot keep quiet, and we shall not keep quiet. We shall fight until we overcome him. People who think that it's just a joke, that we must keep quiet. You know that young girl that was buried on the weekend, I think 2 days ago. I saw that was connected to the torture of Muhoozi Kainerugaba, and now the girl is dead. So, Kati, what I'm going to teach about today or analyze today is the issue, first of all, of the Uganda Airlines. It's why we should remove Muhoozi and Museveni from government and correct what went wrong in Uganda. Let me show it to you. I want to show it to you because last time when I was here, people were asking me, why don't you teach in English? I said, no, I don't want to teach in English because the topics I teach are so radical. But now I don't care. I'll do what I have to do. Teach our people what we must do in a self-defense system for our country. Let's show it to you. I think I printed it here. I want to show it to you. It's here. This is what we are beginning with here. I don't want people to say that I'm just teaching things that are not there. So it's about the Uganda Airlines. The leader of opposition in Uganda, Joel Senyon, was explaining about what was wrong when they were auditing this Bamuturaki in the Uganda Airlines. I think about a year ago or 2 years ago, and Museveni kept quiet and refused to fire him. Uganda has lost so much money that would have helped us in the road making, in the deficits of borrowing that we haven't paid, or the country that is running on borrowing here and there. So now, Museveni has hired an Ethiopian. It's here. Museveni is hiring from Ethiopia. I'm going to use 2 languages. The State House has refuted reports that President Museveni has appointed Ethiopian aviation guru and former chief executive officer of Ethiopia to run the Uganda Airlines. Twabagamba, or we told you that the way Kyagulanyi is going to do these things for the benefit of the Ugandan people is totally different. Nti Kyagulanyi agenda kubikola mu ngeri ndala. Kakati abantu bwenjogera ekintu ekyo bagamba nti musajja naawe otubuulidde ekintu ekitaliyo kye tutulaba nti kijja kutuukirira. Kati nze byengezaako okubasomesa. Kakati, if Museveni was to correct these mistakes in Uganda Airlines, he would have fired that young lady or middle-aged lady from the position of the Uganda Airlines before losing so much money, then bringing in an Ethiopian. Out of the 48 million people, as he says, because for us we think that the number of people in Uganda are about 60. Because if you see the way they did the population census, they did it in line with cheating the election. This, you know what happened in the population census? The population census was made in such a way that we are going to rig an election. Mabadde tebakiraba bulungi nnyo nti baakitandikirawo nga bakikola ekintu ekyo okukisomesa obulungi okukikola obulungi okumaliriza ne batakola population census eri entuufu kubanga Museveni has brought in so many people from other countries to destroy Uganda as a country and Uganda as a tribe. Because in his 10-point program it's there, mwabatakimanyi bulungi nti ebintu bino abikola olw'ekintu ekyo. N'aleeta Congo, n'aleeta Burundi, n'aleeta Ethiopia, n'aleeta Eritrea, n'aleeta buli wamu bonna bagula buli sente zonna ze basobola. The owners of the country are suffocated in business, in education, in everything. Then he's bringing in foreigners to create a new society as his beliefs in communism and socialism are. So, how could Kyagulanyi do, or what is Kyagulanyi going to do about this issue of this? What is the difference between the policies that we are fighting for and then the policies of Museveni? I'll give you an example here. I'll give you an example. I just took one example here. You can Google it and read about it. As of late 2024, JetBlue Corporation Board of Directors consists of 13 members. I'm giving you an example on one of the successful airlines in America here called JetBlue. It goes all over the world. I don't think it goes to Uganda, but it goes all over Europe and in America. These are corporations owned by American people. Kakati, a difference between Museveni, Kyatayaga, because Museveni doesn't want Ugandan people to get rich and to get money. That is his policy. He's a bad person. I'll use two languages because there are people here online that want to understand what we are teaching about the revolution in Uganda. So, this is a private company, JetBlue. It's what can solve this corruption and mismanagement in Uganda. Now you tell me how it works and why we should remove Museveni. So, the structure of the government in Uganda and the constitutions, Museveni is unitary. Museveni appoints every person and Museveni is Museveni. Now, JetBlue does not typically lease specific domestic routes direct from the U.S. Secretary of State. JetBlue acquires operational authority for routes through the regulatory public interest process managed by the U.S. Department of Transportation. Now, olaba ebintu bino bibiri engeri ebigenda okutereezebwamu kubanga bitugenda okusomesa ebijja okutereeza Uganda. Nti Uganda, the Ugandan people that have been suffocated to become poor so that foreigners come and take over our assets that belongs to us, like the Uganda Airlines belongs to the Ugandan people. It's a Ugandan company. and how we are going to do it, Ochagwen, how he's going to do it. These are the two things I want you to see, that the system of government here is through the Department of Transportation. It's the structure of government that once you have a president, a vice president, and the US Secretary of State, but the ministries, now you see Uganda has so many ministries that are just cheating money from the country, stealing money, Kuba, secretary for this, secretary for this. No, the structure changes. Now this one of the airlines comes under the department, the US Department of Transportation. Remember, the US Department of Transportation was taken over by the last here in Boston, the last yes, he was the last mayor of Boston, and Biden gave him that big job of being the US secretary. It's under his dog. Nti Enyonyi, Museveni, he appoints whatever he wants because he wants authority. Now here, the leasing of the routes, and the connection is under the US Secretary of Transportation, Department of Transportation. Until they are private owned, like me, like you, we can come together and form an airline. Ekikyanga tekiriiwo, ebyo tulina okulwanira okutereeza eggwanga, tutegeere nti eggwanga lyaffe tulifunamu, tetuliwa bannansi. Okwata otya omu Ethiopia, they have taken over everything. Wewe waffe gye badde bagula oli yabamye ettaka, babadde baŋŋamba story waffe eyo, yabamye ettaka, yali dunze singi 10 million, 1 billion, but the Eritrean was paying 1.3 billion, and the man said, no, I like the money, but I'm going to sell it to this one. No, the Eritreans are not going to take over our country, because Museveni, the way he has done his politics of destruction for the country is that now he's bringing his sons. Let's go to other things now that I'm going to be teaching about. What shall we do? I'm going to first go to the issue of the diaspora, because there is a puzzle. There is a puzzle. There's so much killing. There's so much bloodshed, and no one knows what to do in Uganda, including the diaspora. And I've talked and I've taught, and no one seems to know and to care. What must we do? Now, there's so much fear in the diaspora. That there's so much fear. People want to engage, but people still want to go to Uganda because it's their country. And Museveni has put in laws that you must get a visa. A visa. If you're a radical like me, but I'm a Ugandan, I'm a Muganda, I'm in the red line, he has the power to stop me from getting a visa to go to my country or visit my country, because I own and hold a foreign passport. But the foreign passport points out exactly, and I have the old passport of the Uganda, that I'm a true Ugandan, born and raised in Uganda. Now there's so much fear in that category. That's why people fear to come out, but people want to participate in the liberation struggle of their country. It's what I'm going to answer first of all, that the plan I'm going to put forward. The South African apartheid government, I'm giving you an example how the South African people overcame apartheid in South Africa, that those that were in exile. The South African apartheid government, through negotiations starting around 1990 and 1991, granted amnesty to ANC exile and political prisoners to facilitate their return to the democratic transition. So, muteko kuchimanya, there is that option that we must not fear. the plan that we are going to put forward so that you don't fear to participate, because if you sit down, it's what Museveni likes. Gobotuula noga nti banne embeera njiraba n'okutta abantu nkulaba sina kye nnyinza kukola bwe naabiyingiramu ate nina okuddayo mu December eka. So fwe tubagamba nti the struggle that is going to be waged against Muhoozi Kainerugaba is not going to take long if we do the following. Waka tetukyalina kye tutya. Abantu baffe amakomera gajjudde. Omuntu omwe yagambye n'agamba nti someone said that the doctors have been told in Uganda that when they are bringing in people from the safe houses, from the barracks that have been tortured and been killed, you must write the following report. These people were killed by gunshots. You must write postmortems that are totally different because they don't want evidence that will incriminate them in international tribunals and in the Ugandan after they leave. Amalwaliro gajjudde, mortuaries zijjudde. Boys and girls of people power that have been tortured and killed in barracks, military barracks. We cannot keep quiet. We cannot keep quiet. We have seen enough from the days of Idi Amin, Obote 1, Obote 2. We have been victims. Our fathers have been victims of these circumstances. We must act now to save our country. So, Kakati, you have to know that when we do what we have to do, in the end, we shall reach this area that I'm telling you about. We shall reach negotiations. Because whatever is there now that Museveni and Muhoozi are offering to our president, His Excellency Bobi Wine, is this. Oh, sorry. His Excellency President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. I don't want to call him Bobi Wine, that's old. Now, I'm telling you this. Nti tujja kutuuka ekiseera nga tutuuse wano. Ye plan gye tuyina. We do not have any other plan. I'm talking about the diaspora. After the diaspora, I'm going to go to Uganda, what the Ugandan people have to do now. Akati, mukitegedde nti when we go in what we have to do, nemutatya, because what we need are international forums, Uganda international forums, to engage the diaspora people and then the international governments that are supposed to help us. America, Canada, Britain, European Union, all these countries using international bodies like the UN. There's nothing we can do. Now, this is what I want to explain to you. Kinjega okubasomesa mu kitegere kiki ekiriwo kubanga abantu bategere kiki ekiriwo bagamba nti there's a NUP. There's a NUP. Why don't you use that? Yes, we know what is in NUP, and we can see what they can do and what they are doing and what they cannot do. We are trying to do what? To close the loopholes that are there so that the struggle moves forward. We already have a leader and we have a political party. Kyagulanyi is our leader. He's there. No one wants to take away leadership from him. Kati awo abantu batategeera bintu bino. Kati we want all the parties that are fighting against Museveni and Muhoozi to come on board. To come on board. There are so many issues. The Uganda National Political Council, including NUP in the diaspora. NUP in the diaspora must remain as it is, with Kauma as the leader or as the president, and then there must be a Uganda National Political Council, like it was in Moshi in Tanzania, so that we now more loopholes. So let me explain this very well. Mukitegere bulungi nnyo kubanga abantu bajja kuwooza nti nina bye njogera ebitali bituufu. Nze mmanyi ekiri mu NUP. They are very good people that have done a very good job. Kauma has done a good job, and his leadership is very good. But what we must do is to close the loopholes and move forward to the liberation bench or the liberation point of removing Museveni. We need what they call conferences. Kati abantu batategeera bintu bino. Conferences, ne forums, ne engagement. When you call people that you want to talk to them, as it has been, abakulu nga batuula wali ku bench nga babuuza mmwe kiki kimwaga mubakolere, kikimwaga mubakolere, nga bakugamba kino nze mbuuza kino. Abamu tebamanyi na politics. We had a very good town hall meeting in such and such a place, and we had a very good engagement with the people to know what they want. Kati awe wali problem mu diaspora awo. That's where the problem is. It's an engagement. The leadership, even if they are coming from Kampala or they are in the diaspora, they are engaging with the people. In conferences that change countries, that bring in ideas, they are called debates, like what you see in Parliament of Uganda. We know that the ruling party that has cheated the elections, that's the way it does things. It has the majority, but the debate, those are the two things. Diaspora. We must reach that point of debating and making results, like you see the Parliament or like you see the Senator in America. Kati ekyo kintu mukiraba kyensomesa kitwawe forward okuwangula struggle embi ennyo gye tulimu, kye tulina okukola kati. Tulina okumakinga sure tuva wano ne tutuuka ku point eyo ne tugamba nti okuŋŋaana lwabadde e Boston, lwabadde e Washington, lwabadde New York, lwabadde e Gindi. We came to debate the issues of liberation of Uganda and unity. What shall we do? You bring a topic, we debate it. There are people that second the motions, then we have resolutions on record, on camera. Then we forward it to where we want it to go. Kati ekintu ekyo mukiraba nti bannayuganda baatudde 15,000 mu diaspora, baatudde Canada nga bali ne meeting eno, baatudde Bungereza nga bali ku meeting, because things are now going to the point of no return. Either we lose the country to Muhoozi and his children and grandchildren, or we liberate ourselves. Because for us to create jobs, we must liberate ourselves. Ekyo nakyo ngenda kukyogerako. Bw'olaba nti Swahili, why people don't know where we are going. We are going to the North Korean type of leadership in Uganda. That's why Muhoozi is killing people. He's not checked. Omuntu omu yagambye n'agamba nti munyiivu nnyo, tulina okusooka okwekweka. Awo ngenda kaakati. Munyiivu nnyo kati tulina okusooka okwekweka. Kati atabuse. Donze zimalawo abantu. Kati tulina okwekweka. This is our country. Tulina okwekubira enduulu mu international community using international conferences and forums. Kirina kibagambye kye tulina okukola. In the end, when we engage in the international community, well, that's where Museveni doesn't want President Chagwin to go. Amwagala kati aveyo mu hiding, ajje bateese amwecho wa prime minister, bamwecho wa prime minister, amala amutte. Then Muhoozi continues with the struggle. Amuse politically, amuse economically, ayinza okumuwayiza nti yabbye ssente oba biki byonna namukolako audit n'akola buli kimu kyonna. Eyo yenkola ye, because Museveni is a revolution and President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is a good revolutionary leader. So the plan gye tuteeka ku mmeeza bannayuganda tutaasa esooka eri mu international eri mu diaspora. the unity and solving problems in the diaspora, bringing people on board, even that has an organization as it was in Mosh. Your first step, did you not come diaspora? No see engagement. So, but to get them conferences, we go through engagement. Abakulu ne batuula wali ffe tubawe kiki ekyokukola kubanga balina ebifo byabwe bakuuma gundi mukulu w'ekifo kino gundi mukulu gurupu ebutuzizze mabega omutali checks and balance. Once we solve that checks and balance, we say now we have come to solve Ugandans' problems in an international conference. So try to that from right from the beginning, but because people had their own interests, but we cannot keep quiet. I want you to hold a black book in Uganda. Every missing person Mumaka in Uganda, they must have a black book and they must write down exactly what happened. We shall need that because we're about to gain more prayers. Nebiki omuntu we yafudde guwazise tubabanga muzika temukyalina nagakaaba tubiraba twetaaga evidence eyo tugikozese mu conference ono tetumanyi tulaga kambabulira akantu ako kubanga abantu bategeera kintu kino bulungi nnyo batu bategeera lwaki nkolako emphasis ku bintu bino. Ngenda kubawa omusajja bamuyita Wiseman oba mumanyi Wiseman oba mwali mumuddeko yali musajja mujju because he was I think Wiseman was the first president of our good friends. They are my good friends. The Israelis are my good friend. I don't hate anyone, but they're my friend. You see, that's the way I am. But I do not hate anyone because of religion or anything, but they're my friend. Whatever the creation of the state of Israel, the difficulties they abantu abakola emirimu mu America kanti baddemu ekintu kino mu kitegeere politics wa America bwakola. Why do I put emphasis on that? Abakola emirimu mu America ab'omuntu omu oba if you get the right person, the right people that know what to do. Ngenda kuba example ya state of Israel bebakolamu ebintu bino ebya nga bafuna independence 1948 n'okufuna Wiseman yalina ekintu kyeyakola. Wiseman had what he did for in the World War for Britain. I'm promising omuyamba. You know that Uganda was given to the Israelis and they refused it. And they said, no, for us, our country is Israel. We do not want Uganda, what they call Arya. So Wiseman had friends here in America. He had friends. They are friends that you cannot find in the whole world. You can find one man akola emirimu. Wiseman yalina omuntu gwe balina okubayamba in the creation of the state of Israel. Yali President Truman. God give him a good rest, President Truman. Yagamba Wiseman yagezaako kumulaba. Truman n'agaana okumuwa appointment. Wiseman n'adduka. He went and found a friend, his friend of Truman, and said, look, we want to talk to President Truman. Kati mbawe ebintu ng'egye babikolamu mu America, politics eng'egye bazanyibwamu. Kakati bwe bituuka okukolebwa bwe bityo ne bakukusa Wiseman behind the scene and they took him to the State House, the White House in America here. His prayer was that help us establish the state of Israel. When he spoke to the president of Truman calls the US Secretary of State, how it works, and then they call the representative on the United Nations. because the president has said, now we want this motion to help the state of Israel. Now, and that was wise man in America. Yengeji bakwamu ebintu bino mu America. Kyetuva tubagamba nti mutuwe conferences zino. Ffe tumanyi ekyokukola. Ffe tumanyi ekyokukola. Mbawadde mu ngero. Ffe tumanyi ekyokukola. And the resolution eyayamba the creation of the state of Israel up to this day. That's how it was made. Kambawe kirala. There was another crisis. There was another crisis here in America. I think it was the Kennedy crisis with the Bay of Pigs. I think such a something like that. You can read about it. The Khrushchev, I think it was Khrushchev with the missile crisis in Cuba here, when the Cuban government brought the Russian and brought nuclear missiles pointing at America. That was a world crisis. The person who solved that mystery and problem for the world to go into a world war was one man. We know so many to engage mu America. Now we need a solution of saving our country where it is now today. Fe tubagamba muyitawo tubagamba mwe muyitawo mutuwe kye twagala okukola. Give us a conference. We need it now every 3 months. We have to be serious. Kiri twakisolvings already. Temukitya. Bali musooke mu holdinge okutambula ke Uganda omwaka nga gumu. Musooke mulindeko tukole ebintu bino tubimale eggwanga lyaffe lisumukuke. Tulemese Muhoozi okutaking over government. Kakati ngenda ku kirala ekya self defense mu Uganda. That's what I'm going to teach about today. Now, for Uganda, okuba nti eyita mu processing abasajja ba Israel, there were people on ground in the state of Israel abaakola omulimu. Tebaatunula butuuzi kati awo ngenda nti Muhoozi ataamye n'amagye, because Muhoozi made a statement several times and says, the army on my orders shall not allow a civilian to take over the country. That's on record, because when we are doing these things, when we are together, we shall debate these things. When we are making prayers to help ourselves against Muhoozi, because now we are fighting against Muhoozi, and Muhoozi is Zimu forever, like North Korea. So what did they do? They created militias on the ground against the British in self-defense of their interests on the ground. We cannot keep quiet. Netwanga Muhoozi atta abantu nga ye bwayagala. The drones come during the day. 2 days later, the body is brought in Mulago or is brought in any government hospital. Then you are told to go and pick up the body and identify it and take it for burial. No, we have reached a point now of creating a militia, a self-defense army for the protection of the people. I told you last week, now China changed here. The only loopholes that we have now, one is South Sudan, where the militias are there. It's a good ground for hiding and learn self-defense tactics. The other one is Congo. We are not creating an army to fight the government. We are creating a self-defense militia to deter the government from killing the people of Uganda. Now, once we establish that people, or those people that are willing to enter into that, the people in the diaspora must help these people, because it's a way of defeating Muhoozi. Ensi yote mwetaaga naye tebakyalina kyakukola kubanga amaze okuwaŋŋama mu buyinza. Ekyo mukiwulira. If you feel certain in Uganda and you cannot live in Uganda. They are killing you. They are looking for you. Please go in self-defense areas in South Sudan and in Congo and stay there for a while. Why do I say that? Without even firing a shot. I'm lying on what happened in South Africa. Now, I'm going to explain to you that. Museveni, we are fenna. They were mostly Baganda and Rwandans. That one, because all of them were looking for the ways of going back home. We are the enemies. Now, what did he do? Mubuze kinyefunza ajja kubabuulira muntuuse eyo nze namanyanga batraininga abavubuka baalyanga kanaana oba mutwalo ku ttaka lya gundi oyo jja kinyefunza muntuuse eyo kakati babagamba nti ye bannayuganda bagenda ne bafuna self defense tactics nti kiba kimenya amateeka because is in government, then awo ye abaalimbi kambabuulire lwaki. You know what he did? I want you to go online and Google this and then learn something today. The first thing Museveni did was to call Habyarimana. Namugamba Habyarimana, I have a problem here. There's the Rwandan boys, the Rwejema, the Kagame, they want to go home peacefully. They want to go home peacefully. Yamuita. No, God, these boys are here. I think you better settle this problem of the Rwandans that are in exile that want to go home. So, by us creating a militia defense force for protecting our people from massacre from Muhoza and Idi Amin, how we did it, and Milton Obote, then we shall engage to our international dialogue, our international conferences, as one people, using the international committee and the UN. We shall write to him about the issues that are affecting the Uganda, especially now look at the militia and the military taking over the electoral process and the regime. We shall take him through that process without even fighting. Once he knows that now the Uganda people are armed and they are ready, trained to defend themselves, he will stop, and the international community and the Ugandan people in the diaspora shall force him into international conferences to solve the Uganda's problem, because we are not looking for war. We are safe defending our rights, our right to exist in our country peacefully. Every place, there are people that are crying. Zimbabwe, every election, there are people that have been shot because of Muho's orders, take over the electoral system, because no, the people like Kyagulanyi as their leader. Now he's fighting Kyagulanyi as a man, not knowing that Kyagulanyi is an idea of freedom for the Ugandan people. You understand what I'm teaching today? We shall take him through that. Failure to establish what I'm asking you to do in the international community and in the Ugandan side, militia, the Jewish people in the state of Israel created a militia to defend, created the army of the state of Israel. Now let's go to America. In America, the resistance against the oppression of the British government in America, they created militias. Kati nsomesa tewe kyali kyakutia bwe tugenda mu kooti tugende mu kooti tetukyalina kye tuyinza kutya bunaku tukaaba buli muntu akaaba tamanyi kyakukola buli nnyumba erimu abakaaba atta anona bunonyi genonone kitatta genonone kitatta n'agera n'anona ne batwala ne batta majambere alina akajja akake. Obote had his own army. Oito Joka had his own army. Paulo Mwanga had his own army, killing Ugandans. Until when shall we keep quiet without solving Uganda's problems and conflicts? We must take radical steps to end this conflict. From what we shall have on the ground and his response, Watata wa fudo watafudo basalimu saliba ya kubanga they are ready to take over the country even if Museveni dies. That's why Muhoozi is leading the country, appointing people without authority. Tetsobola kusirika. If Museveni won by 74%, why are they killing Ugandans? Why? Kwanga is very bloodthirsty, has to kill. Maybe he wants. No, that's not kukikiriza. Nzemba wadde kitulina okukola. Creating self-defense forces. You are not going to create in the political system and the security system in Uganda. We have to form what they call outside areas. Katika jizengendako. Konjokengende ku visa and creating jobs. Kakati, we go to the issue of what? We go to the issue of rat lines. After here. Easily created East Summit by unifying existing underground paramilitary groups, the Haganaga, Igun, and Lehi. Bebakola. Katoliwa government mu Uganda, what is on the ground if we create a self-defense force to defend our rights to exist in Uganda peacefully and to bring the government to a standstill so that it's accountable for its crime that is doing against the Ugandan people. Nti chimenya mateeka kati awo gwe tomanyi kyokola. Nze buli kintu nkikutereddeko. Tugere ku kino. The American created a self-defense force against the British by transitioning from local part-time colonial militias and the minute men. But never because once we have the international conference ng'etambula buli myezi 3 nga y'Abannayuganda bagyenyigiddemu tukola emirimu, this man, we shall put him down so quickly without even firing a shot. Kwajja kutegeera nti kati bagenda. Otegere wakati ekimukozesa ekyo. He wants to create fear and subdue us so that he can build the North Korea type of regime in Uganda, a dynasty of them as they want in Congo, in Uganda, in Rwanda, and Burundi. The good Tutsi. And they are telling no, we are not against the Rwandan people. We want to create jobs and solve the problem of the Great Lakes region and catch up with the world. You fight Jarwanyisa. So, kakati, tugende kucha underground. Tukitege. Mbalago mchala wano. Tabuman. Kambo mubalage wano musomeko mumulabe. Abantu babikoze against slavery. Otegedde. Abantu babikoze. Wano mu America wano waliwo gundi. Waliwo omukyala wamali musomyeko. Nze kamubalage wano. Wono musomeseko wano. The most famous black woman who helped the slaves escape was Harriet Tubman, known as a conductor for the underground railway system. Twetaaga solidarity ng'eyali ku Obote. Kicking out Obote from Uganda, twebeeramu tukosa ekintu kimera Museveni yakitya nnyo solidarity. Buli muntu yasirika n'agamba nti bw'otegeera nti gundi muyeekera, gundi alwanyisa Obote, ayine Museveni bane Kayiira bane Enkwanga. Tuyoke creating underground system etambuza abantu okubatuusa Congo, okubatuusa waggulu South Sudan. We are fighting for our right now to exist as a country, as people. Okufuna ettaka, okufuna emirimu, creating a capitalism. Okuwona ennaku gye tulimu okuttibwa emirembe n'emirembe. Now if every election that happens in Uganda, Museveni shall kill and his son shall kill 20,000 people. And cripple as Obote did, as he did in the last election, as he has just done in this election, that he has cheated, then Uganda will not exist for another 100 years. Kakati tulina okukosa obukodyo obuliwo. Nti underground kati ze ng'endako. If Museveni is not fearing the underground, why has he appointed a Bataka leader in the state house. If Museveni is not fearing the underground, because the way people like Kyagulanyi, they change, they can create exactly what he did with far less time. Hey, Kyagulanyi, what is Kyagulanyi? Kyagulanyi has done his job and is doing his job. Yatubereramu, natatirira, mukazi we, they beat his wife. Now they're in his house. They are doing everything because they are not checked. Until we create an opposite system that is checking them, mujja kwanga batunda ettaka. Mukyegendeze ekisayi gye mujja okutegeera nti kati batunda ettaka. Kati tebamanyi gy'ali. They are puzzled. They don't know where he is. Now they are puzzled. Tulina okwebereramu. Abantu bebereramu. Harriet Tubman yakola byakola okuyamba abaddugavu. Museveni yabikola mu NRA. Bakayira baabikola nga bw'otegeera nti gundi muyeke bayita osirika busirisi. Nagamba abaana baffe mugende mutulwanirire akawogo kaako akantu kaako mugende mutulwanirire. So for us, we shall take him process by process using the international conferences of peace for Uganda. Nga tukwaga na international community, we shall take him process by process. Checks tumazo zibalaga. Don't fear, just hold on. When we are negotiating the return, we shall use an amnesty, because when we go to the international conferences, nga UN is involved. What Museveni wants, Kyagulanyi to come out and negotiate with him, and then it's over. He doesn't want the international conferences because as Itiako Bagalanta. Let me give you an example of what a Galanta works and does. In Rwanda, our friend, I like Rwanda very much, and the Rwandan people. So I don't have a problem for the record with the President Paul Kagame. But do you know what happened to him? On the Congo War, which he has with his neighbors because of the Banyamulenge and Tutsi people, where Muhoozi is helping them and Museveni. Now, because once you have the international community like President Trump and the US Secretary of State as the guarantor of the peace process of ending the conflict, you cannot turn away from that. Now he's going to build. Now they're trying to build. Now, I don't know how far they are. He has gone on the Soviet side. He's going to build a nuclear reactor. Like Museveni and his son wants to build a nuclear, which they are building in Busoga region. Because that's the last that creates a socialist system that is untouchable. That's why you see President Trump working so hard now in negotiation with Iran, because Iran has been subdued to negotiation so that it doesn't build a nuclear reactor in Iran. Now Kagame is building one because of their dynasties, and Museveni is building one. So if you keep quiet, you that are in the diaspora, when H10, or no Rabidi, or H10, or no Mecca, or Jakuzo, or chapter you, never to joke take out, or could defending our right to exist in Uganda. But take it, Katimbabudi, Avantu, engage back one maybe into Kambabudi, the state of Israel, the creation of the state of Israel, how they did it. Mukitegere the state of Israel, how they did it. Ng'egi bakikoramu. Buli kintu kyonna kyonna ekireeta okuyamba abantu kifuna resistance. But if you are committed, if you are committed, bakituukirira. Kimanyi kituukirira kankikulage wano. Israel, after the Second World War, abantu baayo bayiganyizibwa nnyo ne batakkirizibwa ba Palestine kukomawo waabwe. Omwenge bakikolamu. They had to form underground networks. Ne baziforminga. Kyova Museveni afuba nnyo. Kakati ekyo kyenjega okubagamba munaakikola mutya. Kyova nti ye kyeyakoze yadduse mangu n'anoonya ng'alowooza nti tuli bikere kubanga nze ndi Muganda nina ekika clan leader kyayagera kyennyindirako. This is no longer about clan leadership. This is about Uganda now. Omucholi ayina ekika kye, omulugwala ayina ekika kye, ayina buli muntu yenna. You have to form underground networks. Underground networks. Nimuma okuchecking on omuntu kumugenda okutamuza mu underground si mbega. Amabuli ekintu kino mubiyige. Mwawula batamanyi mwali muddeko Buseruka. Museveni abantu beyatta ku parade ku makye Buseruka. Mwali mubawuliddeko. Ya influencing underground networks. Twali tulaba, because for me I'm a political analyst. I was not engaged, but I was looking. Ndaba ebintu bino. Naddira n'ayingira mu underground network zaayo. N'aziyingiramu n'ategeera bye bakola ne we bali n'abakera n'abatta. Bangi abamu yabakwata. So, bwe muba mukola underground networks, kambabuli abalala. If you read about the partisan mu Europe in the Second World War, they had underground networks. Zitambuza emmere, zitambuza emirimu. Aba-Germany n'Aba-Italy ne bakola parallel underground networks. Kwengoloza kubanga ebyo najja bikola. Kyenva mbagamba kati wano muteekwa kube nga mulaba bulungi nnyo. Muteekwa kuba nga mulaba bulungi nnyo. Because the reason why we are preparing to have a militia is for self-defense, not to fight against the government. Tugiteeke ku checks and balance. Bategeere nti waliyo abantu that are ready. Nga bwe yakola Kagame, maya bwe yakola Habyarimana, yamugamba nti abaana Abannarwanda bandi bubi wano. Bandi bubi. Bagakuddaka. Ate nze ndi mu buyinza. Emmundu bagiyize. Balwanyisiza Obote. Why don't you negotiate with them? And then they come home peacefully. Habyarimana n'agamba, I cannot do it. That's the purpose of the active international political wing. Mu diaspora that involves every person of NUP and other organizations. Tuleme kubaamu na loophole. Buli alina organization agiggyeyo tutegeere ti oyo gundi tuba tumumanyi. Bwe kyali e Moshi, abantu badduka ne baleeta organization zaabwe mangu. Women organization fighting against Idi Amin. Baabireeta eby'omu kikapu. Tulina okutegeera. Did you register this organization? Have you been active? Kama okutereeza wano. Anti bagikyeka. Mulindeko. It has to become conference so that we put him on check. On check. Tukola omulimu guno. Bw'anaategeera nti bano abantu bagenda kungoba nga tuteese. Tumugamba nti waategedde nti tugende mu international conference of peace and stability for Uganda and the Great Lakes region. Twanyu gitulina okulaga gye nabaga. Kwa mwategedde kigenda okuddako. Museveni Muhoozi yagambye nti agenda kutereeza parliament because Kyagulanyi political amukubye ku ground ya musenkenye. Kati yagambye nti bagenda kuyisa motion mu parliament nga parliament eya PLU oba ya NRA beba yisa motion nti be balonda president. Ndoze mukyeri kyafumye dda mawuli. So temukyayinza kutuula wansi. Tugende ku Swahili n'emirimu. Uganda to step up US visa compliance drive. teri muntu mubi nga Museveni atayagaliza bantu be kufuna. Kyagulanyi ono ayambye bantu bangi abakubiddwa bonna n'abaleeta wano okujjanjaba bangi nnyo bali wano mu Amerika. Kakati Muhoozi Museveni akiraba nti abasibe bamutolokako alina kubasuffocatingira kubi n'abatta nabeerawo nga abantu batambula butambuzi bavuga bu boda, because that is his system gyazimba class oversowing class. Abaali abagagga Abaganda kati bagula bu 50 by 50 ettaka ligenda ne kaboda kavuga nako kali ku mabanja nako bakakwata ne bakalyamu DPC n'akalyamu buli wamu. Bwe twasooka okwogera nti bakikola mu Uganda wonna ne bagaa nti bakola nti kibakole ekyoli kibakole Kamoja wonna tebamweta kyova Kyagulanyi president of bamwagala nnyo. So the visa compliance drive, what I'm going to talk about and creating jobs as I finish is the issue of the visa. Museveni said that he welcomes President Trump, who is a very good, honorable and good leader that is going to take the world to another level. And he said that I support his drive to deter the Ugandan people. Because they have to stay there in Uganda and start agriculture and start farming. That's what he's doing. You can't even afford to buy a 50 by 50. Now it's telling you have to go for agriculture. Agriculture where? You bring in a Chinese, you bring in an Indian, you bring in foreigners. Kenyans are now buying land in the areas of Karamoja and doing great farming. If you don't know, then you go and work there for them instead of someone coming here to America and get capital and buy land. The land itself is a problem because one land has 5 or 6 titles. Ebyo bitulwanya. Kakati tugende ku kino. How can we do it? Ekya visa. Ngenda kuba I'm going to tell you a country called Chile. Chile. I want you to read about Chile. If it is Kyagulanyi that is in power, the first thing we have to do is to work, and that's why we want the international conferences, is to give a plan B to the American government that if you support us in this struggle, these are the following things that we are going to do. We must counter offer as Ugandan the thing that we are going to do, that Kyagulanyi is going to do when he gets to power, because that's how politics works. Mukitegere kyensomesa bulungi olwaleero nti kimulina okukola kino bwe tuba mu conferences we have to give our plan for creating jobs, a new Uganda, not a place where we shall have restriction on visa. Let me give you an example. As of 2026, Chile is the only country in South America whose citizens can enter the United States without a visa for tourism or business up to 90 days through a visa waiver program. Chilean citizens must have a valid electronic system for travel authorization approval before travel. Why? Why does Chile has these things? Mubisomeko. Trade. Chile is one of the largest suppliers. Kanjibalage one mugitegere. Chile is one of the largest suppliers. Chile is one of the largest suppliers. Chile is one of the largest suppliers of this salmon fish. One more America. Chile is supplying America. Because the way it works, the way Kyagulanyi is going to work out with America. Muhoozi is working with the Soviet. Muhoozi is working with the North Korea and with the foreigner to take our country. Kyagulanyi says, no, I will negotiate with America so that we have visa free. Because for us to create jobs and trade, we must work with America. Now, I'm going to go to the issue how they are going to do it okutogera banna Uganda. Certificate of leaving the Soviet Union. Leaving the Soviet Union was a highly regulated process that required official permission, as unauthorized departure was considered a treason. Museveni bwe yasindise minisita we owakola ku bintu bino yagambye nti bagenda kuteeka process mu Uganda kubanga waayagala omuntu omubi gwe bw'otuula obutuuzaawo oba weekotogedde omuntu omubi mu kifo ky'okuworking out nti what does America want that we can work with it to take away this restriction, at least leave us to where we were until we open up the trade routes and manufacturing routes. Nga ye bwagamba nti agenda creating a massive job areas of employment in Uganda, international trade. Bino bintu bye yandwadde akola naga no, look, let me negotiate with the American people. What do they want? That we can work together to get us out. Nagamba nti you are very welcome. Naga ngenda kubateerawo. Now the Uganda government is going to put into place vigorous, nga baziise vigorous ng'ezaali mu Soviet Union. Ng'okukkiriza okufuluma. Bw'oba ogenda Dubai kukola kyeyo kwetunda, you're welcome. Bw'oba ogenda Kuwait kukola bwakadaama bakuwe $3 omwezi, you're welcome. Naye bw'oba ogenda mu America okufuna ku bugagga bwennyini okomewo ng'olina mugagga, awo olina okuyita mu process eri yennyini ng'eyali mu Soviet Union. Omutima ogwo omubi bakkiriza baabwe bokka. Wano mumubuuze scholarship zonna okuva twazikomplainingako okuva mu 90 ezibadde zigabibwa baali baziwadde abantu bonna ab'omu Uganda, mulaba abantu bonna basomye banyankole batuusi, baali baziwadde buli muntu equally, baali baziwadde. Bajjanga wano bapangisa nabagamba nti flat eri more than one about 3 miles from here where I stay. Bye bakola baga tumukubira weereere. Fabamanyi history w'ensi bwetambula mu bubi bwayo. Era after the fall of the Soviet Union, system, if you're trying to travel outside of America, outside of Uganda, going to Europe or America, you have to apply to the Ministry of Interior, and they have to check ogenda kukola ki, olina sente mmeka. Okusaba ko tetukkiriziddwa. Sigala wano Muhammad ffe tumaze okukiraba. Let me say this in English very well. If holding a visa and you are leaving Entebbe International Airport, the immigration puts you into a situation, if you don't give them something, they'll not allow you to leave. Kubanga you are going to go to America and escape poverty. What about if the government is the one going to be authorizing you to apply for US visa, and then you pay $15,000 to American embassy so that you are getting out of Uganda to go and make some money in America and build a nice house, take your children and take your children to the best schools in America. For us, we are saying no, Chagoni is going to do it the opposite way, the chilly way. We shall negotiate, but we shall negotiate through a counter offer in the international conference. In this international conference, we must win President Trump on our side. Nagagambi, why? Because for anything that we need to do through the UN and through everything, we must win these people. That's how politics work in America, not on individual basis. Kati don't to the wounding and basome saving. Don't say we don't know what to do. Read and listen to what I've been telling you today. What people have to do on the ground, musoke mufulume mwekweke nabaga the first thing you have to do if they are looking for you, first hide, and after that look for rat lines and underground rail network and escape to South Sudan and Congo. Then go through a process. From there we shall see what to do, process by process, like that man I've shown you here. Here, this man was shot by the government. You can see him. This man was shot. He's lifeless. Look at the wounds, gunshots. People are dying every day. What do you gain? Instead of dying like this, just hide and escape and live for another day. We shall help you where you are. Betaga chikawunga, betaga bijanja, betaga munyo. Betaga munyo. Balete tuchali kubya kusaga. So let it be. So let it be. Tugende ku kino. Kisembayo. Full blown no kinder verdict possible when you hear that Uganda ruling party now wants to change the constitution, not for the better but for the worse. Plan the destiny of 45 million, which will be decided not only by 20 million registered voters, but by 500 something members of parliament. From 7 nemuhozo okusoldatinga obuyinza bwe ku Uganda. Gwe banayagala ng'okuyingira mu parliament gwe bajja okuteekamu. Gwe banayagalanga okugenda okulonda mu parliament naye afunayo kintu kidogo. You don't know how Museveni is leading the country. He created a big parliament where he pays people. He pays them. 5 years, I'm going to make 1.5 billion. And I spent 200 billion, but half of the money I have to take it back to my constituency. And for me, I'm going to make 700 in 5 years, plus being a honorable. That's how he's rigging the election. Parliament. For us, we said no. We shall change it the opposite way. That's why Chagwen said he's going to build a new country. We pay off the existing members of parliament and the political system all over the country, police, army, and everyone be paid, and then create a new system so that we have secretaries, the president, the vice president, the secretary of state. Then you have secretary for commerce, the secretary of commerce, or secretary of agriculture. There is a secretary in Washington or in Kampala or in whatever you want to put those houses, because now this issue of Buganda is a problem. But there's a secretary for Buganda in Buganda, there's a secretary of agriculture for Busoga, there's a secretary of agriculture or education in Choli, in Lango, in where? Right there. Not one minister. He has a responsibility for, he's coming from Mbarara, but he has a responsibility of Karamoja, Muchala Museveni. So these things must end. So lero mbasomesezza ebintu bingi nnyo kwati sikyana kyenkweka kati nze kati nja kubisomesa. You act on what I've told you. On ground, go into hiding. If they are looking for you, create rat lines, escape routes, and go to Congo and South Sudan. You know where to go in South Sudan, where Museveni cannot touch you. You have to go to that area of Macha, who is an enemy of Museveni. Not Savakia area. Stay there as we engage him. The way he did Habyarimana and the Rwandan issue that has brought us to where we are now, taking over the area. We write to him and say now we are in the international conference. We went to the government of Uganda and the UN and the Americans. They said we have a conflict here. To solve this conflict, Habyarimana. The election issue. No, that's not enough. Let's go in the international conference using the United Nations, the American government, the Canadian government, but nobody in the European Union. Let's go. It must be the return of us, ngaba radical. Go Uganda, politics. so important banzite otegedde so mbibabulidde ebyokukola byonna bye muyina okukola tugende ku kiro ekisembayo mbadde njaga saagala nnyo okugenda ku kiro nasikoleretinze jobs nina kebo nadde n'essimu yange ng'entawaanya nina kebo yange wano ogiraba ino kebo eriko Berikin made in Vietnam. This cable, instead of killing a Ugandan for free, all this week I've been looking at Ugandans, the young boys and girls that have been killed by the regime for nothing. President Secretary General of Murungi Rubongo Yagambi, 3,000 Ugandans are missing. 3,000. But I told you, for me, my intelligence tells me that in the barracks, there are over 50,000 Ugandans in the military barracks under torture to deconfess people and Chagre. In the barracks all over the country. Instead of putting them to work, it's torturing them. This is made in Vietnam. This one is made in Vietnam. You know the company that is making them is an American company. As we finish on Vietnam, Vietnam had to move from its radical of defeating America, fighting against America, to joining America to create jobs in America. If you get time and read about Vietnam, the education system reform, if you look at the education system reform Muchala Museveni is doing now, putting Swahili, you laugh, no Swahili, instead of teaching people technology. Look at the education system President Chagwan is going to put in Uganda. In Uganda, the American base, because Vietnam realized that for creating jobs and getting unemployment out of Vietnam and develop the country, it must align with America. It had to reform its education system to align with the need of the Western world, not the Chinese, not the Russians. And Museveni is bringing the education system exactly. Look at Swahili. Why do you waste people's time? Because he wants to create a new society with a new language, like Swahili. Tanzania would have been the best developed country because Nyerere, he changed the country to Swahili. And in the end he said, Wajama munisemeye. Munisemeye. That's what Nyerere did. Because I hated Nyerere so much. What he did to Uganda. He's the one who took out Lule. It was Lule, it was Nyerere who took out Lule, brought us all this problem of Museveni today. Museveni never have come in if Nyerere had stuck the argument of Mosho bringing in Lule. So in the end he said, Wajamoni Semeye, forgive me what I did to Tanzania. I brought it down. Now what Muhoozi is going to do to put his agenda forward is to create Swahili, these languages. So we must resist Muhoozi, we must resist Salimu Sale, we must resist Museveni. You're not good for Uganda. Mwebereremu nze maliriza okusomesa, mwebereremu. Ntutu obudde bungi, mwebereremu. Temutya, look where you are going to help the struggle. Musigale ku nupu nga mugiwagira. Chagwan will come out when he wants to come out. The day will come when you are in the international conference. Nga Museveni byazivangamu. Museveni yavanga mu nsiko n'agenda mu international conferences. Maya n'agenda mu conferences e Kenya. Wow, those Nairobi peace conferences. Chagwan asigale tetumanyi gyali twagala kumulabako president waffe tukwagala. Gira obeerayo weebereremu. Tekabana Uganda bakulwanirire. Kikino, Vietnam education system is rapidly transforming from traditional model into a state-run, competency-based. Fetwaga state-run. Education system twagibasomesa emirundi mingi gikwa ekola state by state. state by state. Si government eyawagulu eba ne secretary for education. President Trump kyeyajjawo juzi ndowooza kyajjawo kati. Nagigugolinze nendaba components zonna engeri Vietnam gyeyitamu okukola bino. Kati Vietnam ye hub ya manufacturing munsi. Now the welfare of the people is up. For us, we are not going to do the Vietnam system. No, we are going to do the American system direct. Because these factories are owned by Ugandan people, not Chinese, not Indians. These ones. Oba osobola cables zino emitwalo oba gumu oba 10 buli week. This is your money. Bitulwanirira bino. Atachirabye bulungi tulwanirira. Creating jobs buli sector. Nesi Museveni mukya Museveni kutufungana nti bagera kukola reform. South Africa, those are areas of resistance. When the resistance starts, yes, it's going to start. Era mugyerinda tetujja kusirika. Abajja okugenda naye in the end they will pay. South Africa, 1976, what happened? What happened in 1976? The resistance against those apartheid leaders. These foreign languages. Okuzikaka ku bantu. Kubanga okakaka otya abantu. Nti gwe nga mukyala Museveni pushinga socialist agenda nga North Korea. They have to, over China, they have to have one language. Because it's in the curricula over of their brain. People call it China. China ine egundi nyingi muzita mutya. Yaina egundi ennimi nyingi ne bazijjawo n'ateekawo lumu. North Korea eyina lumu. Kakati Museveni naye ayagala kukola lumu ng'atandikira mu masomero. Kyova nti resistance eteeka okutambula mu masomero. Kyova yayogera Museveni kagamba nti tokkiriza Kyagulanyi president waffe okuyingira mu masomero kuba naye yazimbira resistance. Balenzi bwe njogera ku Uganda nyinza obutamaliriza. Buli mukyalina okukola essaawa ereetuuka ng'agamba abaana tubagambye.
Kale tuyanza muganda waffe Richard Muyombya ndowooza ensonga zitegedde. Munnayuganda buvunaanyizibwa osigala buli mu ngalo zo. Gwe olina okulaba nga eggwanga lyo likyuka. Abalala bonna bajja kukola kye bakola, bajja kutuyamba, bajja kukola kimu kye twagala batukolere naye nga tusoose ffe ne tuteekawo resistance nga ffe ne tuteekawo obwagazi agi nti no twetaaga okulaba nga ensi yaffe ekyuka, twetaaga okulaba nga obukulembeze bannakimalira bukomaawo. Ffe kye tunaateko kye tunaabalaga bijja kuwanguwa, bajja kutwegattako ate tugolwe olumbulege.